And I either said to you or even sitting there talking to you about it, how she brought me to tears. Because she would just start picking on something. Or it was her behavior. I remember being somewhere and she got lost in the car. And yes, I'm trying to navigate. And I don't remember.
And she got out.
But she, and I didn't say anything meanly. I just said, oh, we can't turn right here. Never mind, that road is blocked, or whatever. And she said something like, you're the one looking at the direction. I said, I know, but hold on, I'll get us around, back there. Out of nowhere, she stops the caching, goes to the top level of a parking building. And I'm thinking, what are we doing? Oh, maybe she looked and saw a cache was up here. So I'm not questioning it. She pulls over, she gets out of the car, she disappears. And I'm sitting there like, what the fuck? And she's gone for a while. Let's say 15, 20, 30 minutes. I'm not talking 2. And when she came back, I said, did you go get a cashier? And she said, no. Well, what's going on? Nothing. I'm fine now. I had to get a break from you. And I just thought, what did I do? What did I say? And I spent the rest of that trip thinking, oh my God, what did I do? I go to Europe with her. I thought we had a lovely trip in Europe. All but perfect. Yes, the weather, it rained heavily a couple days. And at some point, she mentioned in Vienna how cool it would be to go to this Mozart concert, which I think you and I ended up doing somewhere in Vienna.
I think we did.
So, she had mentioned it, but she had also told me how Dell was not going to be happy with how much money she spent on this trip. We can't spend anything extra. And I was like, well, that's fine. I can pick up a few meals that we want to do outside the ship. But otherwise, everything is paid for on the ship. And we didn't sign up for any paid excursion. So, she turned that whole thing around to who takes their mother to Europe and she won't go to a Mozart concert because caching's that's much more important. She said that several times in front of her friends. And I'm thinking, what? But that's not what happened. That is not what happened. I mean, you can look at my caching map and see how many caches we got together. One in Czech Republic, one here.
Well, I mean,
but I'm the thing on the beach. She never told me she was upset over the thing on the beach. She told you.
After 2 years ago.
Right. Because when you were talking to me about it, I'm thinking, what the fuck are we talking about?
And I'd never heard that there was an incident on the...
But see, for Aaron and I, there wasn't.
Well, I mean, I have definitely known to make mountains out of molehills sometimes. But I don't hold on to it to that level.
Jennifer went with me, Bob, and Aaron to France. Now, mind you, it's the year she's getting married. She's getting married in August. But when we booked this stuff, she and Dell were not engaged. We booked this, it was a May trip. So let's say Bob and I booked, and I did everything because Bob doesn't speak French, and we were in France the entire time. But I'm booking, and there was no internet. You didn't do things over the internet. You actually called. But I had, like travel books to look at. But nevertheless, so we booked this trip because Jennifer wanted to go. So it was Jennifer, Aaron, me, Bob, and we were meeting up eventually with Miller. What's his name? He's got the big beard. Kevin Miller. sister, and he was spending a semester or a year over there. And they really wanted to meet up, but nevertheless, again, other than a day of looking for a t-shirt that Bob wanted, and some screwball thing. The trip, though, in general, was lovely. We spent most of the time in the Loire Valley. We saw castles. We ate interesting food. And when Bob got fed up, he found an Australian bar in Paris. He spent most of his time going there, and I did things with Jennifer because Aaron and Kevin were off doing their own thing as 16-year-olds. We get back from France. We fly into the St. Louis airport because we've left our car there because we picked up Jennifer sort of en route. We went there and flew out of St. Louis. They have become engaged right before the trip. So now I'm looking at, oh my God, not only do I have a wedding coming up in August for her that I didn't know about 8 months ago, I've got this expensive trip to France with all of us that I had planned. I had won some teaching money, and I had thought, oh, good way to spend it. We'll do some traveling. She gets off the plane, and as soon as you get beyond all the security stuff, and even back then it wasn't as high security as now, but you still had to stay in the sterile part of the plane area. She never said goodbye to us. She meets up with Dell, and she starts crying, and I was alarmed, like, I didn't know she was sick. Is something wrong? No, she didn't talk to us for, I bet, 6 months after. Again, I don't know. To this day, I don't know. No, I can tell you, it was May, June, July. It was 4 months. Because we started worrying about our wedding maybe the end of July, beginning of August, and I had asked her, is this really happening? What's going on? But she was cold to us. So I think somewhere in her head, something happened on that trip. Now, would a normal person even think that anything happened or put that much weight on it? No, I don't think a normal person would.
Well, or I mean, again, I'm a champ of getting upset over trivial things, but I definitely.
But you do get over it.
But I get over it.
And you acknowledge that I was probably getting upset over trivial things. Do you remember when Jennifer brought the kids once to come visit us, and she left with the kids before we got up in the morning, maybe in the middle of the night?
Yeah, I do remember that.
Okay, it's because somebody said something to her that she was offended by. And again, I had no idea. I mean, other than she disappeared, I assumed she was upset about it. She doesn't talk about it afterwards. But you are on her fuck you list.
I know.
So the more those things were popping up in my brain.
So that's why I haven't made any effort to fix things, because I don't think it would do any good. I think that there's just something broken with her, and that it's not repairable. That's what's not repairable. I don't think she is.
Well, and that's sort of what Beth was saying. She said she had a lovely coffee with Joey that first time. They just talked about general things. The dogs, of course, that's pretty much all Beth focuses on, are the dogs. And Joey talked about whatever Joey talked about. Beth said she really thought, okay, we're going to be able to, I mean, Joey's still Joey, I'm still me, but we're going to be able to put this behind us. They agreed to 2 weeks later, maybe 3 weeks later, have lunch together. They have lunch, and again, it's a lovely lunch, according to Beth. And they walk out, and it's not until they got to their vehicles that Beth asked, and she said, and I did it exactly the way I'm saying, Sally. I just said, you know, just for future reference for myself, what is it specifically that triggered you, set you off, made you so upset in what I said or what I did? And Joey threw her arms up and went off on Beth. That why did she think Beth would have figured it out by now? And why? And at first I thought, how do I even believe this? So then Beth said, oh, and it doesn't end there, Sally.
I can tell you.
And she pulls up the texts. She said, read these texts from Joey. And notice, I'm not responding. Joey went on for pages with Beth not responding.
Well, the gist of it, the nub of it, is simply that, according to Joey.
Yeah, again, according to Joey, though.
She had allegedly put Beth on full notice that there were way too many incidences of Beth being critical and especially of grandchildren and all sorts of things, and that Beth continued to do it without ever acknowledging, oh, I really need to dial that back, or you know, and it was like Beth, according to her, she had told Beth many times what bothered her, and there was no change in behavior.
But what do you mean by there was no change in behavior? Because according to Beth asked what happened, and Joey's response was to almost regurgitate everything she had said 3 years ago to Beth, and make fun of Beth for not going and seeking help. But that doesn't really surprise her. The texts were horrible.
Well, the only way...
So even if Beth said something critical, which she's not going to change who she is. My sister is critical. My sister is sort of self-centered. My sister can't be a bully. Okay.
But it's... I've never seen... That doesn't mean... I've never seen her just be relentless and nothing but that.
No, I haven't either.
And that's kind of what...
But that's what Joey is thinking.
That's what Joey is imagining. Or remembering falsely. I mean, falsely in the sense that she may remember it honestly, but it didn't happen that way. It just didn't to a normal.
Further supports the behavior being very similar to Jennifer.
Well, it totally does. And my point is, the only way I could see to either of them ever being even on the road to repair would be for they themselves to somehow realize that they have a serious issue and work with somebody in good faith who has the skills to deal with it. And I mean, if you really want to, you know, I really wanted to not offend people and be unaware of how I was doing it. And so, I mean, Betty helped a lot with explaining things that I should have already known, but I didn't. And she was willing to take the time to explain it at a level, and also not totally destroying my sense of, being, because some of it was like, oh my God, did I really, is that really how that came across? And I was, really mortified that that's how, because I guess seen the behavior modeled and thought it was, so anyway, I was willing to unlearn stuff, and
but I don't think Beth or Joey.
I don't think that.
And I don't think Jennifer is.
I don't. That's why I said without them acknowledging, hey, things are not going the way.
I mean, in the spring break trip I took with Jennifer down to the coast, again, I thought everything was going great. Now, it's true Jennifer does get migraines. I have never seen her where she's so debilitated, incapacitated, and won't even talk to me. And I wasn't trying to carry on conversation at that point. I had said, let me drive. You do need to tell me, though, should I be taking you to like an urgent care place? I don't know what you are actually feeling. I mean, I understand what I'm seeing, but we can go to urgent care. There's one option. I could go get a hotel room right now. We could stay in the hotel room. If you want to stay in the hotel room, I'm okay with going out and doing something on my own. That way you can sleep. I can drive you straight home. I'm giving her all these options. And she's got her jacket up over her head. And she's not speaking to me. So, and then pretty soon she just lays the seat back and lays down. And I'm thinking, okay, well, this is a lose-lose for me because I don't know what she wants, and no matter what I pick, it's going to be the wrong thing because she'll be able to make a story of it later.
Somebody who can't self-acknowledge that there's a problem and want to do better is never going to solve it. Is never going to get better because they, rather unbelievably, are unaware that there's even an issue with them. So there's a complete self-unawareness component of this too, whatever it is.
Well, yeah.
I think everybody has less self-awareness than maybe might be desirable, but there are degrees, and
of course.
And most people have some. I would say that they have zero or negative. I mean that they're just completely unaware that any of these. Not being able to get along with anybody at the firehouse.
Well, and I couldn't share a lot of stuff with Beth because Joey didn't say anything to me. It's not like I sat and had this conversation with her and got to pick up on nuance, But she said, well, Joey's always been a victim. Beth used those terms, and that's when I sort of started saying, well, Jennifer is like the ultimate victim. I said, she brings up Sergey and how Sergey treated her. She was with Sergey when she was 20, Beth. And Beth said, well, but that Joey's pattern is, it doesn't matter if it was a friend, a boss, but in particular, a boss. She, at some point, I mean, she starts off being very sweet with them. She loves everything. Everybody's like an extended family. And then pretty soon, she doesn't like them being the boss. And she made a comment about Joey had explained to her during their coffee meeting how Joey had said something about they were forcing her to wear something or other.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, Beth asked the same question I asked you. Beth said, well, is that something new? Have you had to do that? Well, but they've been making me wear this all. So did you just now get an allergy? You know, it's like, same thing I was asking you. How do you work for someone for years, but there's no change in variable, but now you're suddenly allergic to something?
In some ways, intentionally.
And she said, but it was her tone and how she was going to make sure this boss paid. And she's going to make him, set him straight. Or him, her, whatever it was. The supervisor, the boss, whatever.
And so she allegedly achieved that, but
and Beth's point was, well, do you remember when she was a phlebotomist? You know, she would go in and do the blood stuff. She didn't get fired, but she got close to fired because Joey can't take someone telling her what to do or criticizing her. And it could be constructive criticism, like, I need you to do this differently. I mean, remember Jennifer coming home after the first month or so of work? And she was talking about how she was setting that principal straight. And I'm saying and thinking, is that a wise move?
Well, and she was going to change how the work was divvied up and who was responsible for who.
Yeah.
And
she was making major changes. And I tried to redirect that to, well, you know, if you're interested in this kind of stuff, you can actually get a degree in it's educational administration and or higher education. But it entails learning a lot of this stuff. It entails learning how to write grants. I had to take a bunch of classes in my master's program dealing with this stuff. I mean, by choice, because of the degree I was doing. But when Beth was talking about, because she was sort of mimicking what Joey was saying, and it would have been like Jennifer was standing there, or sitting there, saying those exact words.
right.
So that's when Beth said, well, is there any kind of mental illness you know about where maybe it skips a generation? You know? And I said, she said, no. Was Bob ever like mean or physical? I said, no, never. Though Jennifer makes a big issue out of Bob threw a shoe at her once. Now, mind you, she was a teenager. She wasn't doing what Bob had asked, which was get out of the way of the TV. And Jennifer was standing.
Throwing a shoe is
but that.
If that's the word.
Jennifer labeled as abusive.
If he did it repeatedly, yes. If he did it one time, isolated, no.
It was an out of character thing for him.
Well, that's what I said.
His way of dealing with issues was avoidance.
Generally, to go for a motorcycle.
Right. He'd go jump on the bike and disappear sometimes for a weekend. But again, you never knew what was happening. But I was used to this because my mother would not talk to any of us for weeks. And we would all be like behind her back going, did you have a fight with Mom? Is she fighting with Dad about something? I mean, what's happening? And then you'd say, Mom, what's going on? I'm not speaking to any of you. Well, we learned a lot from that.
Well, that's just...
Yeah.
So, I mean, don't think that I was not. And, you know, there's another similarity, too, which is that Jennifer took on all those inner city kids as rescue projects.
Yes.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Well, Joey taking a three-legged dog is the same thing. It's exactly the same thing. She's rescuing that dog. And maybe she is in a sense. Maybe nobody else was willing to take.
Well, but it doesn't matter. It happens every day, and you know.
And I actually commend her for, you know, being willing to give the dog a home if nobody else was.
Sure.
To avoid it being...
But remember too, Jennifer got upset. I assume with us, but I know for sure me, because we were not willing to just have these special kids. One was a trans, one was not that I give a shit. What I cared about was their age, no access to a car, I don't know them, and I'm going to entrust my pets and them coming into my house? No, that doesn't work for me. Well, I'm coming up with a reasonable solution to your problem. Okay, well, number one, I didn't ask you to. I didn't say that, but that was my thought.
Well,
And this solution doesn't work for me.
And
it's okay. I mean, thank you.
if they had been white...
But it doesn't matter.
If they had been white, privileged, incredibly competent people of the same age, who did have access to cars, I still don't think I would have been comfortable. So it wasn't a...
I'm not saying it was. I'm saying that I thought her reaction to me saying no, and I didn't go on about it. I just said, no, that's just not going to work.
Well, I mean, it's just a further example of if whoever it is, about whatever the issue is, if they don't agree, do it the way Jennifer thinks it should be done, then the hell with them. I'm not going to have anything to do with you. And I'm going to... And kind of with Joey, too, because, I mean, I haven't helped any contractors that she might hire for that house, because I'm positive that they won't be able to do the job correctly. To her, you know, either to her standards, at her price, or whatever. So I think she actually described that she was going to have to do a lot of the work herself. Wonder why.
Yeah, why would you?
I mean, you know, Jennifer, I mean, Bob Roberts, I mean, you've not had as much interaction with him, but he is the most easygoing guy that I mean, he's just unruffled and so, you know, patient and just, you know, if you can't get along with him over taxes, especially when there's not a big issue.
Right, it's not subjective.
I mean,
it's pretty objective.
I mean, it's like if you take it and Lindsay, Kia National Service Person of the Year, she wasn't adequate.
Well, and Jennifer, all but through either electricians or whoever they were, but we had sent them her way.
Well, we did send her one incompetent person, which I regret. That one handyman wasn't. But the other people, the air conditioner people.
Or maybe it was air conditioning people. That's what I'm talking about.
They are the absolute best.
Yeah, but why? Okay, so why was there an issue with them? Again, unless you look for an issue.
Well, the point being that nobody that she's encountered, through us or herself. I mean, nobody is up to snuff on anything. So, her lawyer was not up to snuff. I mean, she may have been right about that, but she made it exceedingly difficult for the lawyer to help her the way she would have liked. In fact, I tell you, Jennifer was so difficult from what I heard on the phone, because I got to listen to some of it. I would have attempted to get out of representing her if I'd ever.
But how was she? In what way was she being difficult? Not responding, or responding nastily?
Focusing on intentional misconduct, trying to find intentional misconduct at every turn, and
on Dell's part?
On Dell's part, on his attorney's part, on just in wanting to talk about things that were so irrelevant to what they were there to do, which was to separate her from this awful person, Dell. And I mean, I get that there needs to be some amount of venting
I understand, because I go through that sometimes even now with Aaron. Aaron will start going on about, well, you know what, Andrew could go work 2 jobs. He could do that, and I said, I understand. But on the other hand, Jennifer, Aaron, you don't give a shit.
So some emotion, some energy directed toward legally irrelevant things is part of the domestic job if you want to be good at it. But I mean, she took it to just even responses to emails from the other side. I mean, it's like Jennifer wanted them to be nasty about, it's like if they weren't, if her attorney was not always telling off and showing up the other attorney, then it wasn't right. And just impossible demands. And, any...
But that's what I've always meant about Jennifer needing to create some kind of a dramatic situation, even where none exists. And she could take a thread of truth.
Yeah.
Like, okay, Bob threw a shoe at her, I'm sure once.
Yeah. It's
but you do not then turn that into, he had such a horrible temper, and he did this all the time, and this is how it. Fuck! It's insane.
In fact, well, it came up in my discussions with Dr. Knapp about how much my boss was getting to me. And was really a lot like Jennifer. He would take a scintilla of truth and, and then add all sorts of fiction to it. And because of that scintilla of truth that was in it, until Dr. Epp explained it, not to be fooled by the scintilla and just, just because there's a scintilla of truth to it doesn't mean that all this other stuff that just wasn't real as far as I could see wasn't fiction. And so, I mean, I don't know what he never gave this Bill guy a label, but he just said he's obviously toxic to you, and if you want to have better mental health, you really do need to get away from it. And because taking a scintilla and basing a whole fictional story but that's what he would do.
Do you remember when Jennifer had walked out of our house because she disagreed with something? And I wasn't even part of that episode. It was like you had given her advice. She didn't like it. She's standing out there in the hallway carrying on, and she leaves the house.
Yeah.
And what the hell happened? And it was sort of, well, you had told her you were going to talk to her or respond legally. Not emotionally, not as like a dad. But if she's asking you a question regarding legal stuff, you're giving her a response that is sound legally. And it was like, Wah!
Yeah, I mean, with the realization that I can't be completely unbiased, but to the extent I can be,
well,
if I think that legally she's on the wrong side of something, or not wrong, but unlikely to prevail as a legal matter, not as an emotional matter. I mean, I was not going to. I might try to say it nicely, but I was not going to tell her, "Oh yeah, that's a sound legal position," if I didn't think it was. And Jennifer was an impossible client to represent.
Well, and it's often impossible to be a parent to her.
Well, that's too limited. It's impossible. Period. It's impossible. It's impossible to have any type of non-toxic relationship with. I mean, not that we're these mental giants of mental health. Not that we're these giants of mental health, but I mean.
Well, and Jennifer and I I tried to have conversations with her when she would bring it up, because she would bring up things about childhood, and I felt terrible that she was seeing her childhood that way, and she would get upset because I was not acknowledging it. And I would tell her, I feel horrible that you feel this way. I can't change how you perceived things but I'm also not going to admit to things that I don't think are accurate. That doesn't make sense to me. I feel horrible that whatever you're feeling could be a result of whatever, but I could never understand her distortion of things. I mean, and this has gone on for a long time.
Well,
I mean, she left.
I mean, there's some.
She was 17 when she, almost 18 maybe, when she moved out of our house.
Well,
and her major reason for leaving me and Bob. Now, Aaron's always thought it was Aaron, because Jennifer always told Aaron it was her fault. And I said, how could it be the fault of someone 6 years younger than you?
Well.
And she would be telling her friends that it's because Bob and I were so abusive. We're like, we let your 20 years older than you boyfriend come have dinner with us. I've drive to St. Louis and see you and the 20-year-old boyfriend. How are we abusive?
Well, you know, a lot of people are in prison because they just have a misperception of events that's so extreme that it's criminal. And like, you know, somebody looks at them the wrong way and they feel like they have a license to stab or shoot them.
No, I know.
And so that is a form of, I think they call that aspect antisocial personality, so that there's just a huge element of inability to remotely perceive reality. I mean, it's like the filter, the lens that they have is so thick that it distorts the meaning of almost every event, every conversation, every.
Well, I know, and Susan used to always tell me, you know, somebody could read a book, you know, a pretty big book, and you could go and criticize one chapter of it. Like, God, I couldn't follow this. It was poorly written. You know, where did the editor go during this chapter? But the book as a whole is a wonderful book that you never forget. It's great. And she said, Jennifer was doing too much of that. She'd focus on a page in a book.
Or a paragraph.
Or a paragraph.
Or a sentence or a phrase.
And Susan always said the problem isn't with the fact that she misread something, like that page, that chapter. It's not that her take was different than someone else's. Judgment of that chapter. The difference is the amount of focus Jennifer would give that, and that defines the entire book. You know, and I, would ask her, well, why does she do this? But the more I talked about other family members, Susan just finally would say, well, Jennifer's very much a bully. And I would argue with her that, no, I mean, there may be something else going on, but I don't think she's a bully. And she said, there are emotional bullies, Sally, that won't own their part in anything. And they're good at manipulating the situation that it comes back to you. I mean, I'm sure now we would call it one personality disorder. It's part of a lot of personality disorders. Not everybody out there has borderline personality disorder. It's a very tiny percentage. No, a lot of people have personality disorders.
Well, it's some type of personality.
Yeah, absolutely. But
some type of serious personality disorder.
well, gaslighting is the word I was looking for. They could describe the exact same situation, and you're thinking, "Are you kidding me?"
Yeah, that's what my boss was doing. Dr. Never used the phrase gaslighting.
No, Susan didn't either, because I don't think it was that popular back then. I mean, this would have been, more than 20 years ago. Or about 20 years. But she would use the word bully. She would say, your dad's a bully, Jennifer's a bully, your sister's probably a bully. But see, to me, that didn't explain it well enough. But I think her point was just that they're not willing, there's no discussing going on. Like, if Cynthia did something to upset me, I would probably talk to Cynthia and say, this is all on me. This is how I'm perceiving it. I'm sorry, but I just, and she probably would come back with something similar. Like, oh my gosh, and no, I think you are looking at it the wrong way. There's no discussion like that with Jennifer. There's no discussing things. This is the first Beth's ever talked to me about something that affected her emotionally. The whole thing with Joey. I mean, I know about her previous boyfriends. I know about her previous husbands. I've met them. I know one husband almost killed her. And most of this time, she's doing what she can to protect Joey. And there's something there that Joey can't. She either doesn't care, she doesn't recognize.
She can't perceive.
She just, and she was writing to Beth how you've never been there to protect me. I mean, even when I read that, I thought, oh, come on, Joe.
See, but see, that's another component of Jennifer consistently is that we don't have her back.
Yeah, I don't have her back.
How anybody who was willing to help her financially, legally.
You could go on and on and on about how we have her back.
With basically unlimited everything.
I have always had her back. Have I always agreed with